Okay, I've just put my gloves on. I've put the main cap on. I haven't put the one in the block because I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do that. But I've just measured the play. I'll show you what it is. That's forward at the moment. Okay, and it's reading 0 on the clock. Right, I'm at the front of the engine now, just off camera. I'm going to push the crank back. And that is about 6 thou. So, you know, really within the realm of the instruments available to me for measuring and what I was able to do on the lathe, I think that's pretty good, to be honest. 6 thou. It was about 21 when I measured it before. It might be slightly less when I put the other half in. You know, it might be that having both pieces in will be better. I don't know quite if I can put the other piece in yet. I might give it a go. I might give it a go. It's just gone. Never done this before. I think you can get the bearings out alright by that method, but it's hard to get them in alright by that method. What I want to do is get the hole round, which is opposite there, isn't it? So quite a long way around yet. Okay, there's the hole. Can I get that split pin into it, I wonder? Because the stud's there, you see. Oh, wait a minute, it goes at an angle, doesn't it? Okay. Well, that's gone in. Actually, it doesn't have to be quite so hidden away, does it? So if I gently turn the crank while tapping the bearing down, that split pin should push the bearing round. Okay. Put a bit of oil on it and put the main cap on. If it goes tight when I torque it up, I'll have to, you know, pull the crank and have a proper look. Oh, it turns nice. Okay, it turns nice. Yeah, turns good. So there's no tight spots on the crank, on the bearing rather. Let's put the dial gauge on. Let's push it forward. Okay, that's forward. Okay, I was a bit surprised there that it didn't actually move. Okay, let's push it back. saying no end float, isn't it? Okay, I'll need to investigate. Let me see what happens if I slacken off the cap. No, that's... Yeah, okay. The the bearing in the block is holding the gap, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, I need to get that bearing out again, don't I? I have to do some careful measurements and see why this one seems tight. Right, I've got the bearing in place. I saw a couple of shiny spots on it, so I've done some careful filing, and I had zero end float on the crank, but the crank did turn, so that zero was zero. It wasn't like zero and tight. It was, you know, when I looked really carefully on the dial, I think it was actually about half a thou. But I've isolated a couple of little high spots and burrs and filed them, and I've got it back in place, and that dial is zeroed. So I'll push the crank forward. Okay, so that is 0. Push the crank back here with the flywheel. So what's that? That's 2.5 thou. 2.5 thou. Okay. So I will, which I would say is okay. That's fine, and that'll kind of wear in now. I've got my built-up faces on the thrust face at the back. Still, 2.5 thou is pretty good, isn't it? You know, end float. The other one gives me 6 thou. So imagine what will happen is that the one that's the tightest will wear a little bit, and then it'll all even out, and it'll settle down at a certain point when it's got good contact across the whole thing. So I'll put the other bearing in the cap and fit the cap, and I'll check the end float again, but I think it'll still be 2.5 thou. Right, let's test that for end float. Right, so that's forward. Okay, let's set that 0. Oops, can't see very well. Okay, so that's on the 0, and this is back. Okay, so I've got about 1.5 thou. I think that's just due to the alignment between the two bearings. I think that's to do with my turning them on the lathe and possibly not having them both seated back on the shoulder effectively enough. But, you know, 1.5 thou is 1.5 thou, and it will wear in. Okay, I'm gonna have to settle for that, because to be honest I don't really know what I can do to I know with just the one bearing shown in place it's 6 thou, and with just the other one in place it's 2.5 thou. and with them both in place, it's that there one. Let me try something. I'm just gonna undo the bolts a bit. I know these bearing shells are really well located, aren't they, with that circular register. Okay. I'm gonna hit the crank forwards and hit the crank back. Watch out for a bit of a shock. Right, that was knocking it forward. Let me tighten it up then and see what happens. Well, it didn't move then, did it? Bloody hell, that's gone less. There's none, is there? There's none again. Fuck me, what's the matter with it? Okay. Well, I've made it tighter somehow. I thought I'd be kind of squaring things up and aligning the bearings and possibly flattening any high spots, but it's kind of ended up like that. I'm going to have a think. I bought this surface plate recently and I've actually never used it, but this might be an opportunity to just see what's going on. Can you see the gauge? So that's reading about round about 5,000. That's reading about 6 or 7, 6, 7. Then it's getting a bit about 7 there. That's reading about 7.5, bordering on 8. And then it's back to about 4 there, look. So that's about 4. You know, 3. 2.5. Then back to 5. So this side is thicker than that side. So what I think I'm going to do is put them back on the lathe and make sure they're bumped back against the register, and then see if I can, I'll offer the tool in and I will make sure it's cutting on this one rather than that one, just to see if I can do that. Okay. You know, the person that never makes a mistake never does anything. I try and do stuff and I'm doing it for the first time and trying to self-teach myself with a little bit of guidance from various forums and things. I do appreciate the guidance on the Ford barn, for instance. I get lots of good guidance from there, including about this job, but a lot of it's, you got to trust your own, you know, judgment, haven't you? Okay, I'll go and get this on the lathe and then I'll get the camera set up over there. Let's see if we can get a little light skim going on here. I think that might be a better way to do it individually. Doesn't make sense, but it seems to hold them squarer. Okay, I think I saw a little bit come off there. Yeah, it looks like it's touched from there to there. So I don't want to take much off. I've actually only wound 2 thou in. Okay, that's touched from there around to there. So let's just give it another thou. That's actually about 2. Right, okay, so that's kind of galled the surface a bit, hasn't it? It's annoying, isn't it? Oh well. Well, that's gone from about there to there now. Okay. Righto. It is what it is, you know what I mean? What can I do? Okay, I will I'll clean everything up and I'll fit that and I'll test the end float. I'll polish the surface with a little bit of Scotch-Brite. I'll polish the surface with a little bit of Scotch-Brite to get them rough bits off. Where's that Scotch-Brite? Okay. Right. Bearings are all fitted. The cap is tight, not torqued, but tight. Okay. That's forward. So what does that say? So that says 0. Push it back the other way. That is 3 to 3.5 thou. Okay, well that's better than 0, isn't it? And it's better than 21. Okay, so I'm going to leave it at that now. But yeah, okay, I'm going to call that a good result. The proof is in the pudding. Let's see what this is like after a few 100 miles of running. I'll have to get set up somehow and measure the end float on the crank, you know, sometime down the line, but hopefully this is going to run nicely now. Okay, thank you very much for joining me in the garage. I hope you find my content interesting. I try and make it interesting. I know it's only niche and it appeals to people with a similar mindset to me, but you know, hey, you can't please everybody. Take care and I'll catch you on the next one. Okay, I'm just about to put the oil pan back on. The gaskets are in place. Put a little bit of sealant in the corner down there, a little bit of sealant there, a bit of sealant there, a couple of studs each side to just, you know, keep them aligned. I went to put the oil pan on and then I realised I hadn't put the pump on. So I put it on and I put a bit of safety wire around the bolt. Okay, The cap's torqued up and the you know, tab things are in place. Those are homemade based on the pattern of the French ones. Okay, right, I'm going to put the oil pan on. Okay, so on this motor I have replaced the PCV valve. The old PCV valve was jammed. It did free off after banging it, but in the as found condition it was jammed. This one rattles freely. I don't know if it will rattle and cause me a problem, like in the noise, but I can turn it 90 degrees if need be. I then have addressed the excessive end float. This isn't the crank that was damaged badly, this is the replacement crank, but when I fitted it, it had 20 thou end float, and when I checked it after it had ran for a while, it got more than that. It got like 21, 22. So I got the bearings. I bought some white metal, what we call white metal in England, you know, Babbitt material, and I built up the face and carefully machined them, and after a couple of rounds, you know, learning as I go, I've got it down to, can't remember what it was, 3.5 thou, but I think it'll quickly wear into around about 6 thou. It'll be okay. Certainly better than 22, 21, 22. Okay, so that motor is ready to go in the car. Okay, righto. Thanks for joining me in the garage then. Take care and I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers then. Bye.